Welcome to Eye on America. I'm Michelle Miller. Today we bring you the stories of community that make up the fabric of our nation. We'll go inside one New Jersey school that's raising the bar to keep children safe. And we'll have a look back on history when we meet with a civil rights activist reflecting on a famous sit-in in Mississippi. But first, one New York City woman has created an easy and no-cost way to put donations in the hands of those who need it the most. Kate Santachin shows us how neighbors care for one another by creating a free store.
At the crux of the free store is the idea of people taking care of people, of neighbors taking care of neighbors specifically. You really know that, like, that Thrasher shirt you're leaving, you're gonna see on the kid the next day, and you do.
Miles Smutney is the founder and champion of the Free Store Project, which is exactly what it sounds like. A network of outdoor kiosks throughout New York City where people donate gently used items, usually clothes, books, housewares, and unopened toiletries and dry goods, for neighbors in need to shop at their convenience.
There are so many people living without, and there are enough, more than enough, living with more than enough than they need. And this is such a very easy, centralized way of, redistributing those goods and that wealth and that care.
Smutney relies on dedicated volunteers and neighbors to help keep the nonprofit's stores tidy so shoppers can browse without shame or stress. She says the magic of the Free Store Project is watching neighbors connect.
Seeing more and more of the neighbors coming and participating and putting up things on the shelves and then meeting someone else when they're coming to take away, like, those kind of interactions are so beautiful and such a positive reminder of how we as New Yorkers take care of each other.
Kiosks are open 24 hours with shower curtains installed to keep out the elements. Each location operates with a community partner. There's one on the grounds of a New York City Housing Authority complex and another outside a public school. This Bushwick, Brooklyn location, dubbed the Little Dam Store, is hosted by the Little Beaver Bar.
We get so much foot traffic over here, and selfishly also like, oh, drop your stuff off at the thing, come get a drink at the bar.
Little Beaver manager Lindsay Roush invited Smutney to build next to the bar's outdoor patio after seeing on Instagram the project needed a permanent space in the neighborhood. She stores excess inventory in the bar's basement and keeps shelves stocked and organized.
There's a lady who puts flowers in there every couple days. Someone, Hill's Kitchen down the street, just dropped off a couple lunches in there. I think it's just a little spot for everyone.
Smutney was inspired to create the project at the height of the pandemic when residents were fleeing the city, and at a moment she was feeling useless.
So people were leaving, and they were leaving everything outside, everything. At the time, there was all these outdoor dining structures that were coming up. So I saw materials and I saw stuff. And I put the two together.
Her first store, outside a boarded up business below her Lower East Side apartment, lasted just 4 hours before management forced her to take it down. But the idea was born. She wants to see the concept expand to other cities and has even created kiosk blueprints and handbooks to get them started.
We had to learn that this hanger wouldn't work, right? Or this bar has to be at this height. The curtains have to be cut off 4 inches from the ground to make sure nobody steps on it or puts a bag. These are things that you wouldn't anticipate, but we learned them, and we want to share this information.
Smutney is plugged into the community and knows how to get donations into the right hands, but she wants the resources to do more. Staples has donated school supplies, and a local grocery chain has supplied food. She hopes to collaborate with more businesses in the future.
I really thought you had to go to school for social justice. I really thought that you had to spend 12 years working on a doctorate in order to engage with the community, or you had to take certain classes. It made me understand that as just a normal person, I could do things and I could affect change, and I could do it on a very small, very powerful local level.
Switching gears now, it's been nearly 60 years since students at Tougaloo College staged a sit-in at a Woolworths in Jackson, Mississippi. Elise Preston met with an unlikely civil rights activist from that day about a legacy that still inspires.
With a defiant yet determinedly calm gaze, this decades-old mugshot is what 80-year-old Joan Trumpauer Mulholland jokingly calls her government-issued ID.
When you look back at that girl now, what do you think?
Oh, she wasn't bad looking. I think she got in good trouble.
The great-granddaughter of slave owners, the daughter of a segregationist, Mulholland grew up in a Virginia home where black people were only accepted to fetch and feed.
Growing up, what would your mother tell you about race, tell you about black people?
They were diseased, and you had to be careful going to the bathroom because you might get diseases. And I just couldn't have put it in words then, but I knew when I had a chance to do something to make things fairer, I would do it, and that came with the sit-ins.
Sit-ins, nonviolent protests staged nationwide during the civil rights movement. As a young college student, Mulholland participated in dozens of demonstrations.
People thought you were crazy.
Oh, yeah, and some girls in the dormitory quit speaking, and others were slipping us a few dollar bills to help support the movement.
She went on to participate in the Freedom Rides, integrated bus trips throughout the South, which challenged Jim Crow laws to keep blacks and whites separate. Her involvement landed her 2 months in a maximum security prison for breach of peace.
Less than 3 square feet of floor space per prisoner. Things were dirty, and the food was pretty bad, and, protein came from the insects.
You were largely thought of as dangerous.
A traitor.
A race traitor.
I was just doing what the Spirit said do, and the movement became like a family. We always had each other's back.
This iconic photo, snapped on May 28, 1963, shows the violence that family endured while trying to integrate a Woolworths lunch counter in Jackson, Mississippi.
Memphis Norman was being pulled off his stool and kicked severely, and the girls were pulled down. It quickly became obvious that I would be safer sitting on the empty stool where Memphis had been than I would in the crowd.
Her faith blocked fear, and constant reminders of the dangers the protester and freedom rider faced surround the now grandmother's home.
I had a copy of my birth record, which was good for if you have to identify a body. If someone gets killed, it's a form of identity.
Even in all that, you weren't afraid?
No. I figured the Lord will see you through.
Joan's son Loki is the founder and executive director of the Joan Trumpauer Mulholland Foundation, which hopes to wipe out racism through education.
Do you feel that your foundation and organizations that exist like it, do you think that they're needed even more now?
The shooting in Buffalo proves it.
We spoke with the family just days after the racially motivated attack in Buffalo.
As it was happening, my mother and the other Freedom Riders were on stage in Anniston, Alabama, talking about the Freedom Rides and talking about the bus that was bombed. I got back to the hotel. My mind was just on this going, what more should I have done? What more do I need to do?
For Mulholland, that work should be done by everyone, those wise with gray hair and the young and passionate with bright eyes.
I'm happy I did it. I had the opportunity. And friendships we made back then are good to the end, but more and more ends are coming.
Coming up, in the wake of recent mass shootings, we hear from students and administrators about what's being done to keep schools safe. This is Eye on America. School shootings anywhere leave a chilling ripple effect on all of our nation's children, teachers, and parents. Meg Oliver sat down with a group of students in New Jersey to talk about the emotional toll of mass shootings and why they all feel safe at their school.
It's crazy to know that when I come into school every day, I'm lucky that I get to come home. I think that's not something that I should be feeling. I'm glad I was able to come home from school today.
That goes through your mind, that you feel lucky to be able to come home?
That it's something we have to live with, and it's hard to accept.
12-year-old Michael Kawadi is one of the millions of kids across the country shaken after the school shooting in Uvalde.
It could have been our school.
It could have been your school. How do you deal with that?
It's a lot to take in, definitely. And I think hearing about what happened, it almost feels surreal. I think school's a place to learn and not a place to die. And I'm praying for all of the families. I can't even imagine what it's like. There's really there's no words for it.
It's like those kids could have been superstars, like they could have changed the world, and then they're just gone. Can't bring them back. Like, that's hard, and some of them had passions.
No child or anybody going to school should have to live in a fear of something happening to them and they're not going to return home.
Raise your hand if you feel safe coming to school. All of you. Why is that, Adrienne?
Because police officers walk around the school, and we do drills, and we're prepared.
At school number 1 in Little Falls, New Jersey, police officers are on patrol daily.
Police presence is a big deal, especially during these times, so we want to make sure that everyone is okay.
3 years ago, Superintendent Tracy Marinelli partnered with the police chief to ramp up security.
Every single district, every administrator needs to prepare their building as if their own children or grandchildren go there.
It's sinking in, isn't it? How do you get through the day, knowing you have 900 students to protect?
Some days are harder than others, but I'm so secure in what we have here. I'm fearful for people that don't go to school here.
Every school has a police substation inside. 5 officers are assigned to walk through the district's 3 schools multiple times a day.
Do you feel politicians are doing enough to protect our schools?
I feel that the things that we're putting into place are not political. They're things that if you have a proactive administration, a board of education that is supportive and you're fiscally responsible, you could get those things done. The best way for schools to be successful is really for politics not to intermingle.
All right, anybody else ready?
5th grade science teacher Monica Heaney says being proactive by having security measures in place isn't taking a political stance.
Having those certain things in place don't seem to be so big and political. I don't really understand why it can't start there.
One of the students that we talked to said he feels lucky if he makes it home after school at night. How does that make you feel, knowing that your students feel lucky to be alive after going to school for the day?
So sad. Should not be anything that students or children feel. Should never be. But this is the world we live in, and unfortunately they see the negative, and then they have to think about that.
Are you hoping by speaking out that maybe this will make a difference?
Yes.
I hope so.
How so, Justin?
Because us speaking out about it will tell other civilians that gun violence is a horrible thing to do.
What do you think, Jade?
I really hope it makes a change in that in my future, and I know a while, but my children's future, I hope that they won't have to live in a world, or I would have to live in fear of them going to school and being scared.
In addition to having the police substations inside the school, officers are outside every day when students arrive and depart. Their security cameras are linked to police headquarters, and they changed every door in the district to make sure you can lock them from the inside as well.
We now move to Uvalde, Texas, the site of yet another mass shooting. Lilia Luciano met up with a professional artist who painted a mural memorializing the 21 victims killed at Robb Elementary.
Strokes of a brush on a giant canvas and strumming on a blue guitar greet mourners in Uvalde, Texas.
Watching him draw that and looking at that mural, it shows the chaos that happened there. But then when you turn around to this side, you see all the unity and all the love and all the support.
Here, at the site of unspeakable horror, Mexican-born professional artist Roberto Marquez paints for days to memorialize the 21 victims killed at Robb Elementary.
This picture is capturing the drama that the teachers went through along with the students.
What have people been telling you about the piece since you started painting it here?
We're glad you came, because so much bad news, even though telling what it is like you bring like a ray of hope for someone to maybe get distracted.
Art helps people forget the pain, but also remember what happened.
It is like two-edged sword, because on one side, we have to tell the truth. which is not easy. But then at the same time, I don't want to make people sadder.
Cubism, the art of Picasso, allows him just that.
I think it gives me the opportunity to bring the truth, but at the same time, leave room for people to come and interpret.
You connect with the emotion, but it's still abstract enough that you're protected from the full picture.
Exactly.
Working day and night. This morning you were here at 4 a.m.
For me, this is a responsibility that I feel that I should not let it go. I live in Dallas, and most of the students, the teachers that I die, Hispanics, I'm a Mexican descendant.
But his art travels to tragic sites across the world, from the Surfside building collapse in Miami to multiple war-devastated towns in Ukraine, from where he recently returned.
Why do you paint catastrophes?
I know that a work of art is probably not enough till maybe when people come and say, yeah, what you're doing helped me a little bit, then it's when I figure, yeah, okay, maybe I should continue.
He says the mural will stay there, honoring both the pain and the love gathered right across the street.
After the break, we meet a 4-year-old who made a remarkable discovery you just have to hear about. Did you hear the buzz? Not all bees can sting, and not all scientific discoveries are made by adults. Last summer, Dana Jacobson met the curious young girl who led to a remarkable find in a California community.
Annika Arnold's command of nature is confounding to many adults, thanks in large part to biologist Tarj Lindsay.
Do you know that carpenter bee can eat lavender?
He's her caregiver, brought in by her parents when she was 3 months old, so Annika could explore nature in her Palo Alto neighborhood.
They don't look like a bumblebee, which is big.
Annika, by now a seasoned naturalist,
Here?
found tiny bugs that weren't just your average insects. Her discovery found its way to California's Department of Food and Agriculture Plant Pest Diagnostics Branch, where Dr. Martin Hauser is senior insect biosystematist.
And you're surrounded by about 2 million dead bugs here.
The bugs Annika found are stingless bees, which aren't supposed to be here. They live in Brazil.
Shows you how small they are.
So small.
They are very small, and that's a honeybee for comparison.
Annika took us to the undisclosed location under the condition we wouldn't divulge the special tree in her special place.
In this spot right here, when you came up here, how many were there? A ton?
And how did stingless bees get here in the first place? Decades ago, the U.S. Department of Agriculture was looking for bees to boost the size of fruit and vegetable crops.
In 1950, the USDA asked a Brazilian researcher to send them bee colonies to have alternative pollinators.
Wow.
He sent to Gainesville, Florida, Logan, Utah, Davis, and Palo Alto. And he said all the bees died in 1 year. They didn't like the cold weather in Utah. They couldn't compete in Florida.
They also went to Stanford professor George Schaefer.
Only the colonies he sent to Dr. Schaffer survived in Palo Alto for 8 years. But then
we're like 70 years later now.
I know. It's for 70 years these bees are flying around in Palo Alto and nobody noticed.
And a 4-year-old girl noticed them.
It shows us when you have a new perspective with the eyes of a child. She just looked at that and she says there's something different with these bees.
The stingless bees Annika found were certainly descendants of ones that had been brought in as USDA pollinators. They were presumed dead and had no representatives in Dr. Hauser's vast collection. In fact, Dr. Hauser hadn't heard of stingless bees from Brazil until nearly 20 years ago.
And I got a submission from a pest control guy in Palo Alto, and first I thought he was pulling a practical joke on me because it was a stingless bee. It's like if somebody says they have a kangaroo in their backyard.
The guy was Richard Schmidt, asked by a Palo Alto homeowner to get rid of buzzing bugs in her backyard.
No, I didn't kill them.
Call him an exterminator with a heart of gold.
I hadn't seen them before.
captured a couple of them, sent them to our county ag department. They didn't know what they were, and so they sent it to the state.
I sent these bees out nearly all over the world to other experts, and they were all puzzling. They all said, "Where did you find it?" And I said, "Palo Alto." And they kind of like,
No,
that's...
you didn't.
And so finally he came up that it's a species described in the year 1900 by a German bee researcher.
After he cracked the case, the tree toppled and the bees disappeared.
This is a part of the bee nest here.
A single remaining piece made it into his collection.
And you see there's still some of the honey there, and
that's all he had to go on until this year, when Annika's bees became social media stars on iNaturalist, a website that posted pictures Taj took.
I was very impressed that she found 2 colonies. That's very amazing that she found 2 and all the scientists found none. So
we need more children looking for bees.
Yeah, and I'm really happy when kids go outside and explore nature. This is how I started.
For Dr. Hauser, as much as the bees are a rare find, Annika is too, and it was important to meet her.
My name's Martin. And I'm very proud of you that you discovered these bees.
And with that came the biggest bug book he could find.
To Annika for many more discoveries to come.
Actually, her bees aren't in the book. Even after more than 100 years of chance sightings, the bees still don't have a name. Though it's been suggested the stingless bees from Brazil be named Annika bees.
For more stories like these and live coverage of breaking news 24/7, stream us right here on CBS News. I'm Michelle Miller. Thank you for watching Eye on America.